Hello and welcome to Only Stupid Answers. My name is Sam Basher.
I'm DJ Wooldridge.
I should learn where you are to me.
So
I don't know where
on
you are.
your right. That way, yes.
What if my arm popped into your
That would be amazing.
You're like,
That'd
wait,
be really
where
cool.
is he? Wait, is he in the room with them? We're social distancing.
That would be a pretty cool magic trick.
Why does my camera look like shit compared to yours? Anyways, welcome. You know what? We were doing some reviews for Tarantino. That's where we watched a Quentin Tarantino movie along with another movie and talked about them together.
Yes.
Now, you guys didn't seem to want to watch those.
I feel unsupported.
But we're going to give it a try. One more. We're going to give it another college try with Marvel Cinematic Universe. 2 years ago, leading into Infinity War, we rewatched the entirety of the Marvel catalog of films.
Yes.
Only the ones that mattered. No Ghost Riders, no Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, no Amazing Spider-Mans.
That's what we should have.
Spider-Mans.
We should have gone back and revisited Marvel movies that were not part of the MCU.
That's pretty good too.
Yeah.
We could do that. We'll see how chronologically they fit into what we're doing here.
Yeah.
It could fit. Like
Who's to
Agents
say?
of S.H.I.E.L.D. They got a Johnny Cage, wrong
Yeah.
person. Nick Cage, Johnny Blaze.
Yeah.
That's a regular name. Don't worry. That's what I'm trying to think of. That's who I'm thinking of. Yeah, he could fit into this. But we wanted to give it a swing one more time, mainly because the Infinity Saga is now over, but also a lot of people online have been saying they're going to give a chronological rewatch try with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So that means we're going to be starting with Captain America, the First Avenger. We'll be reviewing that today. Then moving on to Captain Marvel, since that was set in 1995. Blockbuster and Radio Shack are at all-time highs, just like today.
Now, I know some people would like to, there's some questions about how you do the chronology, but first off, we're not the ones that made these lists of what determine the chronology. And also, you base it off of where the bulk of the movie takes place. So the bulk of this movie Captain America, the First Avenger, is set in the 40s during World War II. Because if you want to really just make things complicated on yourself, technically, I think the first chronological thing is in Thor, where Thor and the Norse deities fight the ice giants in like the Middle Ages or whatever. Also, there might be some stuff where they cut back to the dawn of time. It's like, no, you go where the bulk of the movie takes place. So this is the 1940s. The next movie we'll talk about is Captain Marvel, and then we'll go on from there.
I believe Iron Man is the third.
Yes.
Is what happens after that. And then I think it goes... anyways, we'll put an official list up later. But just make sure you stay tuned to our Patreon, which you can watch live with us on Fridays, where we usually do a live watch-along of something with this quarantine. So if you'd like to join, please consider. So today, we were able to watch... Or actually, yesterday, we were able to watch Captain America, the First Avenger once again with all of you lovely people. And it was a delight. I forget how much I enjoy this movie. And to be fair, we said this before, but in the previous reviews when we talked about it, the first time around, I was bored to tears with this movie. And that sucked because I was like, I want a cool Captain America movie because I didn't know anything. I didn't know what was possible.
Yes.
And then it wasn't until Winter Soldier, and I was like, I get it now. He's cool.
He's
a
the cool guy. Yeah, I think when you go back and you revisit it, that there's this... I don't know. This one has aged well. Some of the MCU movies, you get out of that theater experience. You wait a couple years and you go back to it and you're like, oh, that was fine. But I think this one in particular... has done all right, and I think it's safe to say that the Cap movies, in hindsight, are probably the strongest overall trilogy in the MCU.
I agree, and they only get better and better. Even though Civil War is more like we talked about this on the stream, it's more of an Avengers like 2.5, like a Lion King 1.5 or whatever.
Yeah.
1.5. That's
Lion
what it is.
King 1.5.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
It's a fan favorite. Can't wait for the live action reboot of that one. But for the fans at home who are curious, this movie was directed by Joe Johnston, who also helmed The Rocketeer for Disney, and was written by Christopher Markus and Stephen McFeely, who
we'll never hear from again. They never contributed to a single Marvel movie after this.
No, dust in the wind. But they did move on to write a few smaller projects like Winter Soldier, Civil War, and Avengers, Infinity War, and End Game. Just to name a few. Also, I think one of them worked on Thor: The Dark World.
I think both of them worked on Thor: The Dark World, but less said about that, the better.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. I'm not excited about that movie when we get to that, because Both of those first two.
Those first two Thors are real rough.
Yeah. But also Maggie Whitmer in the chat says Lion King 1.5 is actually iconic, though, so we should watch it.
Oh, there you go.
We should be careful. And also, worth mentioning, this is sitting at an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 74% audience score.
Nice.
Just kind of like looking back. That's pretty low for a Marvel movie.
80%?
74 from the audience.
Oh, yeah. That is low for an audience score for Marvel.
Yeah, no, I think all the Marvel movies have, if you give it 6 months and you come back and look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, it looks a little better. Mm-hmm. It looks like more true to what I felt about the movie. Like, go look at Doctor Strange. That was at like a 92% for like the first 2 months it came out, and then once you go back and look, it's like, no, it's like an 82. And I'm like, yeah, probably. That seems fair. That seems pretty fair. But the entire setup of this movie is so strong, and also the emotional groundwork they do to set up Steve's personality, from not just from when he's like Captain America, but when he is Skinny Steve.
Yes.
You really understand who he is as a person and what he's willing to do to fight for what he believes in. Of course, he's Captain America. He is propaganda. It always comes back to that. But the way that future filmmakers are able to expand upon that, make it more about a man who's at a time, and also who does truly fight for what he thinks is right, and the best possible answer to a problem. And so in this case, it's him fighting in that war to support his country and to support his fellow man and do his part in whatever way that he sees fits. And so he wants to be a hero. He wants to be the people he looks up to. And it's just also, it's kind of sweet. It feels like very much like Shazam now that movie's come out for me. Seeing that instant transformation from like regular, basically he's a kid. Mm-hmm. He's not a kid, but it feels like he's basically a kid that all of a sudden becomes like Superman, and in an instant. And it's something really inspiring about that. And the moment when he comes out of his little Captain America tube, his little rocket, his little personal little rocket, it's always, I always feel like inspired. I think it might be the score as well that really does a lot of heavy lifting, that I'm just like, yes, I get this. Yeah. But anyways, I'm gushing. You talk now.
Yeah. And no, I agree. When he comes out of the tube, it reminds me a lot about the way the first Spider-Man movie made me feel when I was like 15 or whatever. And like he gets bit by that spider, and then the next morning he wakes up and he's jacked, and it's like, man, that was every little pudgy boy's dream. It's just like you just do one thing and suddenly you're just ripped. And
I know this is different. But I will say my metabolism was really strong. Was really fast. So I was that scary skinny kid where it's like, hey, you eating today, bud? I'm like, I'm eating. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I can't. My body won't let me. So thinking about if I could wake up one day and be like, my metabolism slowed down. Don't worry, gang. Don't worry, young Sam. It slows down when you're 24.
Yeah.
It goes to grinds to a halt.
Yeah. Yeah, I never had that problem. I was a bigger boy when I was younger, and so the idea of just getting bit and just or getting in a metal tube and just coming out jacked was very endearing. And then it also reminds me that first Spider-Man movie, when he's discovering his powers as he's chasing the Nazi spy that unfortunately killed Erskine. And I just got to say, I think for me, the strongest part about this movie is definitely Steve in boot camp, Steve learning his abilities. Erskine, Stanley Tucci as Erskine, Marvel has a habit of getting these really A-list top tier actors to do basically one-off thankless roles. And this is the one movie where it actually really works. Like Stanley Tucci does an amazing job as Erskine. He lays a lot of emotional groundwork. Tommy Lee Jones is perfect playing Tommy Lee Jones as the general in here, and it just clicks in a way where it doesn't feel like they're wasted. Stuff like Mads Mikkelsen in Doctor Strange or Walton Goggins in Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's like, why are they here? Why are you wasting them on these roles? In this situation, it's like, oh, these actors actually bring a lot out of what should be like throwaway characters.
I'm glad that Walton Goggins' character can still come back.
Yes.
It doesn't the character doesn't matter.
So
at all,
can Sam Rockwell's, but he hasn't yet.
All hail the king.
Yeah, we should see if we could find those shorts when they come up in the timeline.
Yeah, they're not on Disney Plus
Weird.
for some reason. Last time I checked, to
Yeah.
be fair, they're always updating stuff. I did check out that Simpsons short that apparently played before Onward, before all cinemas shut down. So you can go watch that now on Disney Plus. It was very sweet. I liked it a lot. No, and also just it's always good seeing Tommy Lee Jones. You know, like I'm bummed. I think they used him to the best of their ability in this movie.
Yeah.
I wish Stanley Tucci could have been brought back for like if they wanted to do like Butler Jarvis instead of Computer Jarvis.
Yeah.
Like if they had like a live-in Butler for the Avengers. They don't need to do that anymore. Also, after what happens with the compound in Avengers End Game, while everyone survives inexplicably they survive. I felt like Jarvis would definitely bite the bullet in a situation like that. But I do like the idea of him being around and being like a support, being like the guy who can always give a motivational speech to kind of buck up the heroes.
Yeah.
I feel like Stanley Tucci that'd be a good spot for him.
Agreed.
It's also he dies so fast in this movie.
Yeah.
He just dies basically immediately.
But one of my favorite scenes, and and I think it only works because of Stanley Tucci, because it is kind of silly that like we have this serum and it brings out the good in you. It's like, or the bad. It's like, what does that even scientifically? Marvel likes to. I forgot how much of this movie, like the Thor movie, trots out the whole like science is magic with the thing. But it works because of the way Stanley Tucci describes it. And I said this during the stream, and I'll say this every time I watch this movie. I really think there's a lot of magic in the idea that because Steve is a good person, he becomes an even better person. Because Jan Schmidt is rotten on the inside, he becomes Red Skull. And poor Bruce Banner just trying to replicate the super soldier serum. He's an angry boy on the inside, so he becomes the Hulk. I think there's a really cool and that through line can go into in Ultimate Comics. The situation that created Spider-Man was also supposed to be the super soldier, or try and recreate the super soldier serum. I think there's a lot of like cool stuff that can come out of that idea, and it doesn't feel stupid just because Stanley Tucci delivers the hell out of those lines.
Maybe we'll do like no one knew Erskine had a son who had a grandson, and it looks just like Stanley Tucci today, and he can do it again, and he can explain all this in the future. He'd be great. He'd do a hell of a job modern day being like explaining magic to people, or explaining other sci-fi gobbledygook mutants. I'd love to hear him explain mutants like one more time. Explain metahumans to people. They try to do it really fast in Batman v Superman, and they kind of skim over it. You're like, wait, are you saying that there's like magic people that live here now? We accepting that? Whatever, who cares? Doesn't matter. Different universe. We're talking about Marvel, dang it.
I think another character that really, for me at least, when I first watched it, she just filled the role of the girl, was Haley Atwell as Peggy. And now Peggy's one of the, in my opinion, is one of the most iconic characters in the MCU. You know what I mean? Including her series and including the time she's like, they do a good job of really emphasizing what this relationship means to Steve.
And I'm excited to see in Falcon Winter Soldier Sharon have to be explained to by Bucky and Sam what happened. like because she's gonna need someone to explain that to her. Like, hey, where is Steve? Like, where'd he go off to? Did he die? It's like kind of not.
No, he's still around.
He might be around still. It's hard to say.
Yeah,
we'll figure that. Well, you know what? We have a whole Disney Plus series to explore that. I fully agree with Haley Atwell. I'm excited to. I hope I know she's doing the voice for her What If episode if she became Captain America, which is cool.
Yes.
But it's a bummer Agent Carter didn't work out. You know, I really enjoyed that show, and I thought season 1 was really tight. Season 2 had its weaker moments, but I didn't think it was a bad season of TV.
Yeah.
Still thought it was very solid.
The one thing I appreciate about it not lasting longer is I feel like it would have really kneecapped where Cap's story ended up going in Endgame, because I think they would have at some point revealed here's what happened to her, and I'm glad they didn't, because I know now in hindsight a lot of people like to rip on that ending. I really thought it worked, and I still really like it. And I think rewatching this movie, I think it creates a nice bookends, nice bookends to the whole saga.
I fully agree, and I understand the critic. I do understand it, and I don't know if I disagree with it. I still just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like I think it does feel like a good ending based on where we're watching it now. And while we were watching it, listening to that "I could do this all day" line, it felt like there's no way they knew. But he does say it a couple times in the movie, so I was like, nah, they were setting this up. They wanted this to pay off in some way in the future, because it is a pretty handy line. Really quick though, I just looked at the box office report for this.
Yeah.
It's $370 million, and I was like, "Whoa, they lost so much money." And I'm like, "No, they didn't. It's just movies. Their movies now just make billions of dollars. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore. Everyone will go see these movies. It could be any Marvel character.
Absolutely.
Before they had fully had us sold."
Yeah, and what's interesting too is I remember when I was watching it when I was younger, I was like, man, why is Howard Stark here? Like, why? I get that Iron Man did great for them, and they just want to connect everything to Iron Man. And then I think the two writers, McFeely and Markus, right? I think they do what really good comic writers do, which is they use continuity really well. And that little bit of having Howard Stark know Captain America really pays off, especially once you get into Civil War. All those little things that feel like I remember rolling my eyes. I'm like, oh, why? And it's like it actually pays off in a really cool way. It's not just a gimmick.
There's no way they knew what they were going to do with that moving forward, but it is truly fulfilling. And this is one of the most somber endings to a Marvel movie, but bar Infinity War.
Yeah.
But I'll call that one a solid bummer of an ending. But this ending where he is alone, and even though we get to see him explore making friends and making new connections in the present day, it's still heartbreaking. Yeah. Even throughout this whole movie, where he's able to, no matter how strong he is, he can't save his friend. He can't save Bucky.
Yeah.
He can't be there for the woman that he loves, or that loves him. It's just, you can see the limitations there, and that he can still, even though he is this representation of American values, of the time, or the propaganda piece, he still gets pushed around. He still has to deal with what he's given, and he has to live with that. And it's heartbreaking, and I'm really excited to see him get beat up more as these movies go on. Lose his friends.
Well, it's interesting. I will say, obviously we've been talking about all the things we liked about this. A couple critiques that I can give, even though I overall enjoy it. I think the weaker element is, if the strongest part is him becoming Captain America, once he's fully transformed. And by that I mean he's got his suit and he's going on missions, and it's after he saves Bucky and after he confronts the Red Skull for the first time, his career as Captain America is essentially a really cheesy, hasn't aged great CGI wise montage, which is cool.
It gets,
but it relies a lot on the other. I don't think this movie really sold, to me, the legend of Captain America. It's not till other movies where people talk about what he meant to people in World War II. You're like, oh, that's who that is. It's here you just see a lot of the build up. Theoretically, he went on missions for months, years, a period of time. And it's left a lot to the imagination, which has never really been explored elsewhere, which is kind of, I don't know. It's one of those catch-22s. On the one hand, maybe you could have started in media res. He's already Cap, and then we double back and talk about his origin, just so we get a sense of him doing multiple missions. But then the origin's a really good part. The other thing that I think doesn't age great, or is not one of the stronger parts, is Red Skull himself. I think obviously he looks the part. Hugo Weaving is always fun as an antagonist, but he's like a lot of Marvel villains in that he's kind of paper thin, in sense that we never really, he shows up again in Infinity War and End Game. We never get to see full Avengers level threat Red Skull, and he's just the bad guy. He's just the bad guy of this movie, and he looks cool, and that's basically it.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with those points. I think that montage, it's very much capturing, it's doing a similar thing that Ang Lee's Hulk does, where he edits it like a comic book.
Yeah.
And in this sense, it's let's get the big splash pages, the ones that people remember, or the covers. but in a more dynamic way that I think works better than Ang Lee's, the way Ang Lee's Hulk's edited. But I don't disagree, because also just like moves really fast, and you're like, wait, what are all these like 9 guys that just hang out around him? Like, who are these people?
Yeah.
Like, one speaks French. I don't know. Like,
and German.
and Dum Dum Duke and German.
Yeah.
And I do like Dum Dum Dugan, played by Neil McDonough.
Always.
Awesome choice. But yeah, it kind of, the movie just starts booking it a little bit, even though it's just over 2 hours. It kind of feels like it really sets the table prior to him becoming Captain America, so you can get to know the man.
No.
And then it kind of really skips to the end, which is not bad, but it is, it's a valid criticism that I agree with you that it's a valid criticism, because I feel it as well. But I think one of the strongest things is doing the propaganda piece to sell war bonds.
Yeah.
Bail bonds. Yeah. To sell war bonds. Him getting in the costume and fake punching Hitler, and that being the catalyst for the comic book existing in that world, and the fandom popping up for young kids that were inspired by Captain America. I did like the choices they made with that, because also, like, he's a liability. Like, yeah, he was trained to be a soldier, but he wasn't able to do all the same exercises. And yes, he is strong, but it's like maybe he's too valuable to even put out there.
Yeah.
He's better as a figurehead in the eyes of the military, until he actually stands up and saves his friends and saves that whole battalion of men who were captured. Also, I did want to throw it out there, because I said this during our review, but here's my theory.
Yes.
Do you think the guns Hydra used that were powered by the Space Stone, the Tesseract?
Yes.
Do you think there's a chance?
Cosmic
because at
Cube,
the end of the
call it
movie,
what it is.
The Cosmic Cube.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, we see Red Skull grab it, and he starts to kind of disintegrate, and he gets teleported out into the cosmos, which is cool, because at the time, at the very least, maybe they knew they were going to make that the Space Stone. At the very least, it's the Cosmic Cube, so it's like it's opening a portal to the cosmos, and he gets beamed out into that, and that's cool. What do you guys think about possibly all the times Hydra men or other like allied soldiers are hit with those rays? They don't die. They just got teleported to somewhere else. So the dark version of this is someone throw out the idea that they get teleported into the sun, which is worse. That's bad.
Yeah.
Or maybe they are on Vormir with Red Skull. They're just either a bunch of ghost people or they're walking around.
Yeah,
I like the idea that if one day it's kind of like the 4400, where all of a sudden they all come back. And they're like, oh, what happened? They have no idea.
I think you also threw out the idea. I also think you threw out the idea they're just getting shot up into space. So like I was playing with the idea that the Guardians are flying to Earth, and there's this weird debris field of all these frozen Hydra soldiers just are floating around planet Earth.
Yeah, you're like, oh,
whoops,
bummer.
Whoops.
And also, I love Zola in this movie. I love Toby Jones. I love that he had plans for a big robot with his face in it. You can see the blueprints on the table. It's like, yeah, he had a plan.
We have not gotten that yet. He might show up in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I do like how they've utilized that character, and I think the Marvel movies overall have done a really good job. And they keep the Captain America movies in particular have done a really good job of using lower tier villains. Like there's very little chance of Zola being the big bad in his own Cap movie, but the way he was utilized in this and Winter Soldier, the way they utilized Crossbones, the way they utilized Batroc. I think the Cap movies have done a good job of utilizing, to the point where I think some of those second tier villains are better. Like Crossbones is better than, Pierce in Winter Soldier. I think Zola, I was more interested in his character than Red Skull. Like there's more nuance there. You know what I mean?
I agree. You could pitch it right now. I could be kind of cool to see, like, if you saw a merger of like Zola and Ultron, more in the sense that like he could tap into what Ultron was capable of doing.
Yeah,
and he could have like a pretty solid worldwide threat. It's not as cool as Ultron. His name is Zola. It doesn't sound as cool.
Yeah.
It's not as interesting, but he could still be around. So there's definitely a chance he could come back in Falcon Winter Soldier, and it'd be fun to kind of deal with more of Cap's villains as it goes into the Disney Plus series. But that being said, on a rewatch, what would you give this out of 10?
I would give this an 8. I think it's overall really enjoyable. I think it's a lot of fun. I have criticisms for it, but I think as far as like fun entertainment. I think it really fits the bill. I think Chris Evans and the whole team did a really good job of laying the groundwork for this character that really paid off in good ways, and it makes me feel good watching it. What about you?
I agree that like when it comes to the groundwork and the feeling of this movie, there's something. It's like a slice of Americana a little bit, you know. It's kind of it's dipping into that nostalgia that it works for me. Like I watched the Andy Griffith Show, and I watched like other series like that when I was a kid because my parents watched it, and I enjoy those kind of things. And there's a very similar tone to this movie that they're pulling from things like that for this movie to work. And also there's like this like rose-colored picturesque view that America has of World War II, even though it's awful. You know, like there's this weird, like, we're kind of enamored by it, and I think I am too, to a degree. And I think that's some of the appeal to this movie. I mean, I watch a World War II movie anytime, you know, like they make a million of them, so I'm always interested. But that being said, I think all the performances are really strong. It was cool to see Chris Evans play a more even keel character compared to like Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
And I saw Push. If anyone ever saw Push, the psychic movie.
I saw Cellular.
Cellular's good. Yeah. I like Cellular. It's very
too.
Dated. Man, trying to make a movie with peak technology is always going to be tough.
Yep.
Huh? It's always going to be tough. We should watch that. Yeah, and Haley Atwell, Tommy Lee Jones, Stanley Tucci, excuse me, and Hugo Weaving. They all do. I think they all do a very good job with the things that they're given, and it's a solid start looking back now to what this is going to turn into, and it makes me even more excited now to get to like Avengers and to even Avengers 2. Even though I feel pretty lukewarm on that one, I am excited to see how these characters evolve and change based on the interactions with each other. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this review and are able to join us as well over at patreon.com/onlystupid-answers. They get these reviews early. They're able to watch live, and I love to involve them more as we move forward with these reviews, and we get to watch live with them. So please consider supporting over there for as low as $5 a month. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate you guys right now. If you want to, if you guys would like, you could write your reviews in the comments down below, or hit us up on Twitter at Sam Basher for me.
Hey, DJ Talks Trash from me.
At Only Stupid Answers.
Yank out the vowels from stupid.
Bing, bing, boom. Subscribe, like, do all the fun stuff, and write your reviews down below in the comments, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.